All right, thank you very much for attending our call for innovations. No, sorry, our call for EOI for service provider for V4F South and Southeast Asia Regional Hub. Again, and in the chat box or in the Q&A chat box, you should now see the announcement of us. And for someone who have just joined, if you look at the top right corner of your screen, you're going to find the chat sign with a question mark right in the middle. And that's where you're going to submit or send us any questions that you have. This will be the live event, so this will be the way we're going to communicate. We will respond to your questions like along the way, both pre-submitted and the live question that you are about to submit as well. Without further ado, I think we can start the call for EOI Q&A session now. Let's go through the housekeeping things first. I think it's important to note, as I mentioned, that this is a live event, so you won't be able to speak. You'll be on mute all the time. However, the chat box is there at the top right corner of your screen, so you can submit your question, both contract or technical problems or questions anytime. Even though you have or experience some technical problem of Microsoft Live, please feel free to let us know using the chat box question anytime, the question chat box at any time. The second thing is there are a lot of pre-submitted questions, and thank you for that. There are a lot of questions which we have already grouped them, and we're going to present them together with the live event that you are about to submit at the end of this presentation. When we're going to walk through that in our agenda again. The last two things on the admin and logistic. This webinar will be recorded, and we will share with you after the webinar as well. And at the very end of this presentation and this webinar, there will be 1 minute survey. You can take less than 1 minute to finish it. You can use your phone in case you join on your computer and you have your phone. You can just use your phone to scan the QR code and complete it within less than 1 minute. We're going to provide you with the link as well in the chat box. You can also click there and finish the Q&A. Finish the survey right online as well. Now, there will be a few things that we want to mention today. But the first thing is, these are the people that with you today. So I'm here, Bess Ratasari. I'm the Hub Manager for South and Southeast Asia Regional Innovation Hub. You're going to see Raisa, our TA or Technical Assistant Facilitator, and BOP Specialist joining and talking about the EOI process and the technicality of it. We will also have Mukesh, our Grant and Finance Specialist, talking through about the contract and procurement issues that you may face and some important information about procurement and contract. At the back end, we have Arena, our Com and Knowledge Management Specialist, and Art Pongsakorn, who is our country coordinator for Thailand and other countries of South and Southeast Asia countries. We also have Katie, who is from the Secretariat, to support us on this event as well. Now let's talk through the next item, which is the agenda. I'll start introducing the hub to you. Just give the very big picture and overview of the hub before we dive into the pre-vetting process and timeline and call for EOI overview and service category. There are a lot of questions about service category, and you're going to find that in Raisa's presentation. Last but not least, and very important as well, is on the requirement. There are a lot of required documents. There are some criteria that you may want to mention. So how are we going to assess you, how all of these vetting process go and how you're going to be evaluated against. This will be discussed by Mukesh and all the required document as well. Last but not least, we're going to have the Q&A session, which we will present and answers the group the question that have already pre-submitted. And as again, if you have any questions during our live event, please feel free to use the chat box at the top right corner to submit it. We will answer that live submitted question to you at the end as well. This is the agenda for today, and now we're going to talk through about the overview. So basically, V4F is the joint initiative of a few governments, from the German government through BMZ, the EU, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of Netherlands, SIDA from Sweden, and of course USA. What is or what are the objective of WeFref. So this is a joint initiative, as you can see, the water, energy for food. So we work on this nexus. The next slide, we're going to talk about the objective. So you know, as a background, what are the objective of us, and maybe along the way, you will figure out and it will make sense about the support that we will provide to the innovator. So as the name says, the first objective of us at We4F is to increase food production, but at the same time, doing it in a very sustainable way, using the most efficient technology, using technology to increase efficiency of water and energy use. We also support and try to increase the income of people at the base of the pyramid, both men and women, both rural area and in the urban area. So how are we going to do that? We will provide the technical assistance and capital to these potential companies and organizations that will join and now in our cohort. Last but not least, the very bottom line of the whole objective of our program is to promote climate and environmental resilience and biodiversity in food security, water, and energy efficiency. So these are the objectives of what we do and what we try to achieve at the hub. Now, what about the hub? How the hub looks like? So we're based in Bangkok. While we're based here, we operate in 16 countries, and Raisa is going to talk through the countries that we operate in. You may have already seen that on our website and fact sheet as well. It's also good to note that this hub, Water and Energy for Food, South and Southeast Asia Regional Innovation Hub, it actually implemented by 3 partners, Tetra Tech, Cross-Boundary, and DevWork. So to answer one of your questions about the contract, how it's going to be signed, Tetra Tech going to sign a contract with you. And Mukesh will talk through that question and answer you again in detail in the Q&A session. Now, what are exactly the service that we provide to the innovator and what are we doing? So first, we provide the direct grant to the innovator. So you may have already seen the call for innovation at the end of last week. We just announced it again, the winner just recently as well. The second call coming up in the following quarter of this year. So this innovator will be getting grant from us. We provide technical assistance support, financial assistance support, and also capacity development. Moreover, we have knowledge management and advocacy as another 2 things that we work at the hub level as well. And all of these will be the service that we provide to all of the innovators of us. Now, I think as you see the overall picture about our hub, and last but not least, before I turn over to Raisa, I would love to just give a very broad picture of how our cohort look like. These are the 3 themes that we are working on at the hub. First, water food. We have 2 innovators working on water food now. We have 6 innovators working on energy food, and we have 13 innovators working on the nexus of water, energy, food. If you ask like who are they, you can also find that online as well. We have just announced the announcement of the winner of Call for Innovation 1, which is online. The link will be provided at the very end. Now we'd love to turn to Raisa. You have the broad picture and overview of us, and now Raisa going to walk through the pre-bidding process and service category. To you, Raisa.
Thank you, Bess, and good morning, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. So just to give a brief overview of this process, why are we initiating it? So as Bess mentioned, that we have the innovators selected through the call for innovation process. We are also working with different companies who have been working on these water, energy, and food nexus for a while now. So a lot of these companies have been already working, and they have joined with us, and we are working with them to identify how we can scale their impact better and faster, because each of these companies are tackling one of the issues on the agricultural productivity, food production, sustainability, climate change, and now with the impacts of COVID, their work is definitely hampered in one way or the other. So the objective of these service provider finding them is that we can support them through technical assistances, which would be smaller assignments to support them to either solve a particular problem or to find details on how to implement, let's say, like a strategic objective, or even identify how to develop a strategic objective for one of their, to make sure that their impact is scalable. So for that, this pre-vetted service provider process had been initiated to first identify different service providers under different categories. I will go through them later on, and then have them pre-vetted in a pool so that we know that in which country, which type of service providers are available for what type of service there. So through this process, we are going to develop this pool of pre-vetted service providers. And through that, as a part of that network, you can also start working with and be connected with these innovators who are working across the region. Next slide, please. So for this one, I think before going into the details of the process, I want to emphasize on the 2 key dates that are coming up. So the first one is the deadline for EOI submission, which is 23rd July, and it's at 5 p.m. Bangkok time. And after the deadline, it will take us around a month or so to complete evaluating the application and then finish the vetting process, which is basically Mukesh will take you through the documents and requirements for that vetting process before we announce a list of the service providers by August 13, 2021. Next slide, please. So now I think we want to go into a little bit into the details of how this process works. So firstly, when we engage with the innovators, we identify that what are the areas where our support can help them do their tasks better. So we develop scopes of work for technical assistances, and we have them, and then we decide which one can be delivered by the hub's expert team members, or for which we need to find service providers in that with experience and expertise in that particular area. So for that, initially this pre-vetted process is the next part of it. So we have circulated the request for proposal, and then there will be deadline for question submission and proposal submission. Once that proposals are submitted, what we would do is that we would look into the top 3 service providers who would then be interviewed or talk with the innovator to go through their plan of implementing the assignment. So based on that interview and also the evaluation process of the proposal, the service provider would be selected and it would be announced, and the contract would be awarded by Tetra Tech. This was one of the key questions that we have received, and Tetra Tech, as an implementing lead of this program here in the Southeast Asia Regional Hub, would award the contract for a specific service provider. Once the contract is awarded, the service provider will have to develop a very detailed work plan for the particular assignment. The details of the assignment varies, and that work plan will have to outline the level of effort, the tasks, and also who does what and where are the collaborative scopes of working with the hub or the innovator kind of lies within the work of the timeline of the assignment. Once that work plan is approved by the innovator and the hub, that's when the delivery of the technical assistance starts and the service provider kind of continues to work on it. At the very end of it, through this process, we do engage in regular checking calls to see the progress and key tabs on the challenges or even the issues if some may come up. And at the end of it, the deliverable, once it is developed, the final deliverables will have to be approved by the innovator and the hub, both for the technical assistance to be completed by the service provider. So this is the overall process. Now, this is not something that is all happening at a certain time of the year. So this would happen as and when we identify the need for the technical assistance, and then circulate the request for proposal to this pre-vetted pool of service providers. So based on these timelines we would do it, and it can be pretty regular or it can be very sporadic. It depends all on the needs of the innovators. It does not have any specific schedule of when the request of proposals would come out. Next slide, please. For the target countries, right now, the hub works in 16 countries, and of them, currently we have 8 countries where our innovators are located. We have Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Myanmar, Nepal, and Vietnam, where we have our current cohort of innovators housed, and we definitely would be working in the rest of the other countries once kind of like the next call for innovations are rolled out as well. We hope that we would find innovators to work with in these countries. So from these countries, a majority of a lot of our innovators are in India, and you would find more details about them if you visit the We4F website. It has details about each innovator, what they do, and where they work, even within India. Next slide, please. So these are the specific technical assistant categories that I'm sure you have looked into the EOI solicitation document, but if I can go into a little bit of details on these ones. So for a selection of your area of expertise, you do not have to provide all the, let's say, 3 or 4 types of TA that are listed under each category. Let's say if you are looking for checking in business development as your area of expertise, it can be only one under that, let's say supply chain management. It does not have to be all 3. When you select business development, it does not mean that you have to provide service for all 3 that are mentioned under there. You can only have expertise in one, and you can select that. Very similarly, you may have one expertise area under each category. Let's say gender integration, you have gender-based missing market analysis expertise. For environmental sustainability, you have holistic environmental impact assessment sustainability. And for market research and analysis, you feel your expertise lies within the sector and theme-based market research and ESG-related market research. So you can select these 3 TA categories of gender integration, environmental sustainability, and market research and analysis. And once you submit the documents, you can add and highlight those information in there. So that would work. Within these intended TA categories, we do not have technical assistance requests or the need identified for all of them. It will come over the next couple of years. So we are doing this pre-vetted process at this point of time to identify them beforehand, so that when we identify a need for a technical assistance, we can roll out the process very quickly and select a service provider to provide that support to the innovator. Next slide, please. For this one as well, this one is a little bit detailed on the specifics. And again, you do not have to provide all of the supports if you select, let's say, based on the pyramid impact. Even within that, if you have very specific expertise on one, please mention that and highlight that, so that we also understand within the intended category, what is your particular expertise area, and then when we circulate the request for proposal, it will be done accordingly. So for me now, this is it, and I will hand it over to our grants and finance specialist, Mukesh, to take you through the contracting process.
Thanks so much, Reza. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all the participants for your interest in working with Tetra Tech and for your participation in this webinar. Now we'll be discussing about the evaluation criteria. There are principally 3 categories for evaluation: the management, capacity, and profile, which has got 30 weightage, and technical capacity has got 40 weightage, and the past performance has got 30 weightage. So principally, when we talk about the profiles, the key factors and services your organization has been working, the geography of operations, your year of establishment, and the organizational structure are the key components that we consider. And ability to manage and execute the technical assistant to V4F innovators is another criteria. Demonstration of your experience in relevant technical assistance service category where we are applying. The degree of expertise and geographies of operations is the criteria which has got 10 weightage marks. On the technical capacity, like it is the highest scoring 40 thing. So level of clarity, the detail of team profiles, biographies of key personnel with experience. But biography, there are the several questions on the biography thing. There are no set templates for the biography. You can share the biography in your templates, providing the key experience of the people and their achievements and their experience, the level and clarity, detail of services that you wish to offer. So that is, you have to describe up to three main services. On the past and illustrative performance, you have to provide us like at least 3 projects highlighting what are the the name of the project, the value in US dollars, the description of the services you have provided, the location where the TA was provided, the period of performance, and the type, TA technical type. You can see this TA technical type in one of the slides of this presentation as well. So, and the key achievements and outcomes that resulted through this technical assistance. So that has got 30 marks for the past performance. So whatever your applications will be evaluated through these criteria. And now we'll be talking about the documentation and certification which are required. There are several questions on this, so let me clarify on this, that there's the only documents that you need to submit at this point of time is the proof of incorporation and proof of registration, copy of business license. In some countries, these may be 2 separate documents, like in India, they have like incorporation is one document and registration is another document. But in some countries, it may be one document. So it's fine to submit if you have, if your country has one document instead of 2 documents. And the second document is the certification that your company is not owned or controlled in total or in part by any entity of government. So it's a simple declaration on your letterhead, and I'll just show you the template as well in the next slide. So it's a simple declaration that yes, your company is owned or not owned in part or total. So these are the only documents that you need to submit at this point of time. The DUNS number and SAM registration, they are optional. Normally, some companies who are already doing business with the federal agency may have these DUNS and SAMs. They are welcome to share these details. If you don't have this, they are not required at this stage, but we strongly encourage you to apply for these registrations. The links are provided here on this site for the DUNS registration, DUNS number and SAM registration. This will be helpful for your business, and these are required to do business for the federal agencies if you plan to do in future. So these are the documents which are required, and post selection there will be suppliers at a form, a banking information form, and a foreign source income statement form, which we can discuss. We can share the templates with you subsequently. Once you are selected, then we can talk about these forms later on. Now, we'll respond to your yes. This is the template I was just mentioning. That is a simple certification you need to print on the letterhead of your organization. And it is simply to say that this to certify that name of your organization is not owned or controlled in total or part by any entity of the government. And it has to be signed by the authorized signatory of your organization. Now we will take you through the pre-submitted questions. And for the sake of time and participant convenience, we have regrouped the questions. So it's easier for everyone to understand. So about the eligibility to submit EOI, the question was, will current operating standard in a country be required for a service provider? Yes, service provider is required to have experts in physically working in the target countries. International travel to provide service will not be allowed. So, and though we strongly prefer that you are legally registered entity in the target country, but it is not required. We strongly prefer to go for the entity which is legally registered in the country they intend to provide the services. Next slide, please. So there was a couple of questions about the non-profit organization and whether they are eligible to provide to apply as a service provider for this EOI. A non-profit is a legal entity which is organized for a collective public or social benefit. This organization means a non-profit organization does not earn profit for its owners. Instead, whatever the organization gets the money, it utilizes those money for its objectives and goals. Yes, both non-profit and for-profit organizations are eligible to apply as a service provider under this EOI. And then there was a question. There were several questions about that. Who will be the contracting authority for the RFP and RFQ, subsequent RFQ and RFQ, which will be coming up? So the contract will be between your organization and Tetra Tech ES Inc. Do the service provider have a right to exit after being impaneled? And can they choose to not participate in any RFP or RFQ was concern of some of the participants. Service provider can stay in the pre-weighted pool, but choose not to respond to RFP or RFQ. So whenever the RFP or RFQ, as Raisa was explaining, that whenever there will be a need for TA, there will be specific RFP or RFQs that will be coming up. So if you don't intend, you may choose not to respond to that RFP. The service provider can also notify to V4F at any point of time that they are no longer interested to be a part of pool and not participate in future RFP. So, and some of the participant has concerned about our impaneled service provider to allow to form consortiums with partners of complementary capabilities. Can consortium be formed for the impanelment process? Unfortunately, service providers are not allowed to form consortiums. Due to the scope of the assignments which we have, which will be coming up, we will be vetting up only the individual organizations, not the consortiums. And there was like, please provide details or example about the information or format which is required for an organizational conflict of interest and other certifications required. So I have just explained in my slides that there is no need to submit the organizational conflict of interest certificate at this point of time. The applicant is required to submit the certification that company is not owned or controlled in total by any entity of government. And we will provide the template which we have presented on slide 20. This is a question which most of the participant has, like most, and probably it will be important for us to clarify this about the summary of a project need to be 3 slides long. Does each summary of a project need to be 3 slides long? Should we submit as PPT or PDF was concern of some of the applicants? Is there any template which most of the applicants asked for? If so, where we can find it? If no template, what information is required? So please note that you have to submit 3 project examples per area of your expertise and upload 3 summary per project. So if you are like applying for, say, 3 areas of 3 projects, so 3 into 3 will be the 9 slides that you will need to work on. These can be on the PowerPoint or PDF format, but must be uploaded as one file, the consolidated one file. And we strongly prefer that the projects you are mentioning are related to the V4F Nexus technical areas. V4F will not provide a template for these PPTs or thing, but while each 3 slide project summary should include the following. Number 1, name of the project. So which project you have worked on? The contract value. What was the contract value in terms of US dollar? Who was the funder? In which location the services were provided? The description of the project activities and the TA type. The TA type you have already seen, Raisa was talking about on slide 15 and 16, that what are the TA types. So what TA types you have, that experience was, your previous project was, and the period of performance for which you have done that TA, and the key achievements and outcomes. So these are the key components that you can plan to include in your 3 slide project summary for each of your project. And several of the participants has also this interesting question. Can we upload additional documents in addition to what is enlisted in the call for EOI? Yes, you can. If it's your wish, you can upload additional documents. However, whatever the required documents are enlisted in the call for EOI, they are sufficient for the evaluation purposes. So now, before I request my colleague to address the technical questions, Raisa, I will like to mention that we are all here to provide any assistance or guidance which you may require at any point of time in future. And we'll try to address your question asked during the webinar at the end of the session. So I'll invite my colleague Reza for the technical.
Thank you, Mukesh. So for the TA category selection, I think as I was mentioning that there are multiple TA categories that you can choose, and you can choose up to 3 service categories which are most relevant to your area of expertise, because we do want to make sure that you are being selected for what you are best at. And also, for if there are more areas where you have expertise on, please send the additional service categories and the past performance examples to the mentioned V4F asiabits.tetotech.com for case-by-case consideration, so that we have this information in our hand. But then we also evaluate based on both the application and these additional categories. But it is appreciated if you select the best, most relevant 3 service categories for the as the TA category that when you select it. Next slide, please. So one of the things that came up the most is, and I also mentioned that you do not have to provide all the support for all the contents under each category. You can have expertise on only one, and then that is fine. And it does not change the way it is evaluated. Each service provider is evaluated based on the TA category they have selected for a particular one, and then the relevant past performance examples and other required documentations that they have provided to demonstrate the expertise and experience on that particular TA category. So for that one, you can select this one, and later you can change the TA category if your area of expertise, let's say you're expanding your team or in the working areas that you're expanding. So once that happens, you can definitely share that, and in the subsequent areas that information can be updated, but definitely not based on the nature of the RFPs that come out. It's based on your areas of working areas and expertise that you have within the organization. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we are also getting is that on the targeted working areas. So for each of the service providers, it is not necessary for them to perform at only its origin country or only in one country or all countries. It depends on where you have operational teams, and based on that team, what is your relevant areas of expertise. So you can choose which country team has expertise in which area, and you can choose to apply for that and update that, update us with that information. You can work, you can have a team working in all their countries or maybe just in one country, but it all depends on the relevant expertise that you have. The reason we are looking for in-country teams is definitely because it depends on your organization's ability to operate locally. The timeline to mobilize a team, we do not want that to be a long time frame once the contract is awarded, and the required resources, because we do realize the local need of localization, and then the ability to engage with the people that are in the field there who are working with our innovators. So we need that local expertise, including language ability, as well as the COVID related travel restrictions, because we do not see that going away anytime soon. So the reason, that is one of the reasons that we are emphasizing on the country relevant teams and expertise there, and we are disallowing the international travel, and then also the relevant cost implication, definitely that reduces your ability to be more cost competitive if you are providing more cost related to travel, and then obviously like in country inter-country travels you are providing. The next slide, please. So for V4F, we do have these 16 countries that we have selected to be a part of the hub, but we do not have any geographic focus for a particular country, or within a country, we do not have any particular focus to work in a certain region or a district. It all depends on where our innovators are currently working and what is their expansion plan. So all of the working areas would be selected and identified based on the innovators plan. Next slide, please. So one thing that also came up is that if the service provider will be providing technical assistances or also be involved in supporting them in implementation. So it all depends on the types of technical assistances designed. So majority of the technical assistances would definitely be more on the on supporting them through excuse me, supporting them through a particular assignment, coming up with strategies or even plans, but the on-site support requirement would be designed and not necessarily a mandatory part of all of the TA. So each TA design depends on what the issue is and what the strategic objective of the innovator is for that particular support. And regarding the roles and responsibilities on who does what, because it is working with the innovator, so the innovator will also have to take an active part through the technical assistance process to support the service provider with required information and also give them access to their working areas. So this would be outlined in the scope of work and the work plan. And once the deliverable is completed, the service provider will need the innovator's approval prior submitting it to us for the final approval. Unless the innovator approves the deliverable as accepted, we will not be approving the final deliverable from our side as well. Next slide, please. So this was also another question that came up a couple of times, is that whether it would be like a batch support or it would be innovator-wise support. So because these are some problems that are very specific to each innovator, so we are looking for personalized support for each innovator so far. And there is not a batch related or like kind of like a hybrid acceleration support format that we're kind of currently looking at now. Next slide, please. So this is it for the pre-submitted question. And now for the live submitted question, I will just go through some and then give answers for that. So one of the questions was that
so the live questions, one of the question is like on the number of slides, you have asked us to upload 3 slide summary of our previous project per each area. Does this mean 1 slide for 1 project or 3 slides for 1 project? So probably we have already clarified this in the submitted questions. It is 3 slides for each project. So probably that's clear. And another question is each TA category is inclusive of several component content areas. Are the companies still able to participate if they have expertise in one or few and not all? Yes, absolutely. You can participate in your expertise area. You are not necessary. You can choose that your expertise area. It's not necessary for you to select or to participate in all the areas of that category. And another question is like, are there any specific requirements for supporting documents? We have talked about these specific documents, that the documents which we require are the proof of your incorporation, proof of your registration, or a business license, as it is called in some countries. If there are 2 documents in your country, it can be, you can provide both of them. You have to provide both of them. If it is only 1 document in your country, then it can be 1 document. And in addition to this, you have to provide this document which we have talked about, the template that about the ownership, that how much your company is governed by controlled by the government. And then there is a question about the number of employees, the women and men, who is to give that information, and who is that self-declaration by authorized company representative? Yes, it is the company's declaration or a declaration by the company authorized signatory. And then there is a question which we have already covered in our session about the technical experts location and the registration in the country. So and the question specifically says, does experience of working count, or the company should have staff or office in different countries? Companies should have technical experts in the country of TAs which they wish to provide, and those strongly prefer to have a legal entity in the country of the TA, but it is not mandatory. You may be registered in one country and you have offices in other countries and have your experts based in that country. Yes, it's perfectly fine for you to apply for that. And next question is SAM's number mandatory or DUNS will suffice? I have already given you that that these are the optional things. Reza, you want to take up some technique? Yeah, please.
Yes, thank you, Mukesh. Yeah, so we do have a couple of questions on the technical assistances here. So one of it is on the timeline of the TA contracts released. So yes, so the question is, does it mean that all TA contracts won't be released at once, since it depends on the needs of the startups and that they might vary? Yes, it is absolutely correct. So the request for proposals will be released to the pool as and when it is identified, and there is no set schedule for that identified already. So it will be done as and when we find it like a need for a technical assistance. The next question is there any potential for the scope of work to be expanded beyond the currently listed content areas in the course of the collaboration? For instance, from media training to also include other areas of public relations and publicity. So the scope of service will be reflecting the needs of the innovators. So there could be an additional needs in future. We will circulate that within the pre-vetted pool of service provider. But as of now, the listed ones are the ones we are looking for. What is the indicative approximate budget outlay for TA support per startup, and are all TA heads having equal budget? So for per innovator, there is no specific budgeted amount. It will be determined case by case basis, and all the TAs will not have the same budget. It will depend on the type of the support that we are looking into. The next question was how many shortlisted TA providers per TA service area? So we do not have any limit for that, depending on the paperwork and the vetting process. How many we get per category, we will have them listed for that category. It might be multiple for one and only couple for the others. It depends. The next one was what kind of organizations have We4F worked in the past? Are there any case studies that we can go through? So we have the first cohort of the innovators onboarded. And you can look up about the case studies and what they work for in the We4F website. There are per innovator has like a page that explains what they are doing and also information relevant to that. So there, and We4F, we are working with our first cohort innovator here. So there is no particular We4F related case studies there. So another one is regarding the international travel. So the question is, you mentioned that international travel is not allowed for COVID and cost effectiveness reasons. If COVID restrictions are lifted in a country and the service provider can fund its international travel through another funding source, would they be eligible to provide services? Or is it definitely out of consideration for any service provider to have a team member travel internationally? So for now, physical team on the ground is required, and definitely we would not look for international travels to be supported for the technical assistances. We have already answered that in the slide, so you can take a look at that. There is a question on tracking the progress of the process and currently where we are at. So within the EOI solicitation documents, we have shared some key dates in there. You can check the dates. So currently, as of the current level, we have the July 23rd as the deadline for the submission and August 13th for the circulation of the pre-vetted list. Can we propose other services relevant to support innovators and entrepreneurs that are not listed in your categories? No, this EOI solicitation is for specific TA categories for a particular innovators that we have. So there are multiple questions that we see coming, which are all regarding We4F's role and then how we operate and with whom we work. For those, please visit the Water and Energy for Food website. There are information not only about the South and Southeast Asia hub, but also the African hubs as well. You can check that to understand where We4F is working and with what type of innovators in which areas and countries. We do have a lot of questions coming in, but because of the time limitation, we cannot address any more during this webinar. But what we will do is that we will add all of these questions and circulate it with the answers, and it will be uploaded on the We4F website along with, it will be shared with the participants here along with the recording of this webinar as well. So for now, I think I will finish here and hand it over to Bess.
Right, thank you very much, Raisa and Mukesh and everyone. So, and thank you everyone for joining as well. There are a lot of questions and all of them are interesting, and we will definitely answer as much as possible. Just one last note that I would love to mention here. There is some participant mentioned about the process and will this eliminate the small companies that like from applying to these EOI. So basically the main objective of this EOI and pre-vetting process or not actually just to eliminate the small company. In fact, the key things is actually the opposite, because this process will actually ensure us for a transparent process. So whichever size of the companies you can apply. The main thing that we're looking at is first, transparency of the process. So, and the second thing is just to ensure that the company have enough capacity and ability to support our innovator. And that's why we need this pre-vetting process, just to ensure this element of service. So even though you have a team of 5, but all of you are really experts in the specific area. For example, now we are looking for carbon financing. If you are a team of 4 or 5 with this area of expertise in yours, and you can prove it, you're good to go. So the main objective is just to ensure transparency and assess the ability and ensure that our innovator will receive the service that they are looking for with quality. So there are a lot of questions coming up, but please feel free to submit as many as possible as you want. We will group them and provide you with answers in our like FAQ and also the follow-up document that we will share after this. So what will happen after this call? There will be a couple of things. First, you will see the documents that we will include all of the questions that pre-submitted and also live submitted here with answers. This will be shared to you. The reports of this webinar will also be uploaded on website and shared to you in the email. And these are the 2 things that you can come back and refer to. But even though you have some questions after this webinar, please feel free to send email to us anytime. But before we end this session, I would love to ask you to submit like 1-minute survey. It's really quick. If you have phones on your hand, you can just scan the QR code and you can finish it within less than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute. It will be real quick, just a few questions, 5 questions actually, when you can just click and select, and that can be done. All right, And I think it's good to mention again about the deadlines, and I have already mentioned that. Please feel free to submit the EOI by June the 23rd, and the deadline will be on June the 23rd at 5 p.m. Bangkok time. We will then enter in the evaluations and vetting process. And then the announcement of the pre-vetted innovator, pre-vetted service provider will be announced on August the 13th. It will be announced on website, and you will also be notified. You can check on the website and see the list of pre-vetted service provider there. Last but not least, if there's any questions, you can submit the email to us anytime, as you always do, at we4FasiaBits@tetratech.com. And that's mentioned in the last slide as well. And please feel free to submit and send questions to us at any time. We will try to respond to your question as early and as fast as possible. And if there's any question, please just let us know. Before you leave the meeting, please again finish the survey, and we will be in touch. And thank you very much again, everyone, for joining our webinar and Q&A. And hopefully we will work with you in the very near future. Thank you very much. Have a good day.